Hello and welcome. My name is Kelin Flynn, and thank you for joining me for my 2020 academic research project presentation. My question was, what are the problems with the NCAA's current proposal for student-athlete compensation? Something we must establish to find the background information is the term student-athlete. That was coined by Walter Byers, the former president of the NCAA in the 1950s, when a Texas A&M football player was killed during a game. His widow sued the school for workers' compensation. Mr. Byers coined the term to distinguish the players from employees of the school, making them amateurs and making the schools not liable for compensation. The NCAA's illegal recruiting practices date back to the origin of the NCAA. However, one of the most famous stories is that of the SMU football team that was found to have been illegally paying its players in the 1980s and was convicted of the death penalty in 1987 after they were found to be paying their players while already on probation. This resulted in the football program being shut down for 2 years, and the SMU football program has never been the same since. The program was docked scholarships, banned from bowl games, and many players left. The issue of student-athlete compensation has been around for a long time. However, it was most recently shifted into the eyes of the public over the last 5 to 10 years, especially through players such as Shabazz Napier. While during his title run with UConn for the men's basketball team, he said, "Sometimes there's hungry nights where I'm not able to eat, but I still got to play up to my capabilities." This absolutely rocked the college athletics world and prompted the NCAA to change its meal plan regulations, allowing schools to give players unlimited meals, which they were previously unable to do. And one of the reasons people were so upset that players were going to bed hungry is that, for example, just last year, the NCAA made over $2 billion during the March Madness tournament off of exclusively broadcast rights and ad revenue. And people were extremely disappointed that these players were creating so much wealth for other people, however, they were not being compensated fairly. Another example of this is that a 1990 University of Illinois study found that an elite college football player brings in about $500,000 in revenue for his school. Adjusted for inflation, that number is just under $1 million today. However, this number is actually likely lower than the true value, as the ballooning TV deals and merchandising contracts that schools, conferences, and the NCAA now have likely would boost this value. The first group to take action on this was the state of California, as Senate Bill 206 granted name, image, and likeness rights for non-community college student-athletes in the state of California. This was a massive step in the right direction for those that are pro-compensation, as these student-athletes were now able to sign agents and seek endorsement deals for their name, image, and likeness. This also prompted many other states to look into adopting similar laws. And then this in turn prompted the NCAA to provide a response, and they were actually forced to switch their stance on the topic, as their long-standing beliefs were that student-athletes were just that, student-athletes. They were amateurs and they did not deserve to be paid. However, they were forced to change their position, and they offered an extremely vague timeline that was eventually given more clear details, as just in this last April, the NCAA Board of Governors decided to back a plan for name, image, and likeness compensation for student-athletes. Now that the NCAA has agreed, at least in principle, to adopt some sort of name, image, and likeness law, the major questions are how college athletics will be shaped by the law. One of the biggest players in the world of college athletics is the athletic apparel companies that are associated with many of the biggest schools across the country. Brands such as Under Armour, Nike, and Adidas all are huge players in this world. And all of them are looking to sign the next superstar, and they get a slight advantage. And so when these players are using their products well in college, companies are hoping that these elite high school athletes sign with schools that they're associated with. In 2017, Adidas was even found to be paying players to attend schools they're associated with. Now, with the name, image, and likeness laws, a key part of that is that players cannot sign with brands competing with the schools that they are with. So, for example, a student-athlete at the University of Maryland cannot sign with Adidas because Maryland is an Under Armour affiliate, just as a student-athlete at the University of Louisville could not sign with Nike because Louisville is an Adidas affiliate. This will play a huge role, I feel, in the way athletes are recruited and courted because these companies are so dead set on finding these next superstars. Another important aspect is that of recruitment and transfers while in the college athletic world. Schools will likely start pitching endorsement opportunities just as much as their on field success to these players, especially to the elite players that will be courted by all types of elite programs. Separating themselves with endorsement opportunities would be a huge factor for schools. Many schools will also likely institute a brand development department within their athletic departments in order to entice players to go there, saying that they can build up their brand on and off the field. As for players, once they're already at the schools, they will be less likely to sit and less willing to sit. Recently, transfers have shown that they can succeed, as the last three Heisman Trophy winners were all transfer quarterbacks, so players will be less willing to sit as they want as much exposure as possible to earn money while they're already in college. And the effect on professional sports could also be quite profound, especially in the world of college basketball, where one and dones are extremely popular for the elite high school players. Some of these players may not be quite ready for that jump to the professional level after 1 year, but financial pressures could push them to make that jump. However, if they're able to provide for their families while in college, many of these players could decide to stay in school longer, which would benefit themselves as their own personal development would improve. It'd benefit the schools because they're keeping the elite talent there longer, and it would benefit the NCAA as a whole because the NCAA is keeping these elite athletes in their program longer, bettering the quality of the product. Another one of the biggest questions is what's going to happen now? Well, the situation is still constantly changing and evolving. The NCAA is still altering its timeline and adding new information as the weeks go by. And even if we're just looking at the California Senate Bill 206, we're still years away from anything going into practice, as the California law did not have its name, image, and likeness laws going into place until 2023. The NCAA is also years away from anything coming into practice, as they still have to iron out many of the kinks and answer many of these questions that I have talked about today. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed, and if you are interested in the topic, please stay up to date with the most current information. I hope you enjoyed.